What is up, guys? So we're on a Saturday here, the day before a ride. All the machines are maintained. They're together. Not only are they together, like they're literally together. Nothing's apart, getting fixed, or there's no projects going on. They're all together. And I figured, you know, it'd be a good day to just go ahead and do kind of like a, not so much a walk around of each machine, because we've already done that individually for each one. But I just thought it was cool since they're all together. Just go ahead and kind of do a machine walk around brief of each one, and maybe do a startup of each one at the end, just to do it. You know, they're all together. I don't know, you know, by the end of the year, one of these might be gone or something. So I figured might as well shoot a video with all three of them in it. So yeah, guys, I'll just do a quick, kind of a brief walk around here. So this is a 2006 Suzuki LTR450. Recently picked that up earlier this year in April. This is a 2008 Suzuki Z400 that I got in 2018. I actually bought this for my wife, and it kind of slowly morphed into something else, which I'm sure some of you guys can relate to. And then this has been in many different forms over the past 3 years. This is a 1988 Honda TRX250R. And this one I recently just did a full chassis swap at the end of last year. Around this time last year is when I picked up this frame. This is an Aaron's tubular steel frame. So this is not the stock Honda frame that it's on, but it is a stock linkage frame. Nothing special about it in that regards. It doesn't have a, you know, it's not a no link or a CR500 or anything like that. But yeah, let me turn this. I had this radio up a little louder because I had the fans going in here. It's pretty hot today. So let's start with the LTR450. This has kind of been the most recent machine that I've had in a lot of the videos, and I've said it a bunch in videos and writing, but I'd like to keep this one mostly stock, you know, especially with the motor and the suspension, aside from the front floats. Just recently, last weekend, I actually cut off the stock ball joints and drilled and tapped for replaceable frap ball joints. So now a lot of the Suzukis and Hondas, they have non-replaceable ball joints. So this was a common thing to do back in the day. And I figured, you know, since I kind of want to stay committed to the stock suspension and not go long travel or aftermarket, I would just go ahead and set this up. One of the ball joints was leaking a lot of grease, and they were a little bit noisy. Not bad. I probably could have gotten a little more life out of them, but I figured it's the perfect time to go ahead and do that. So that is what I did. So again, this one's mostly stock, A-arm, swing arm, rear shock. I do have an aftermarket linkage on the back just to correct the ride height, since I have bigger, you know, cross-country style tires. I also recently, as if you guys know, when I bought this, it had white plastics. I got new OEM yellow plastics. The only thing that I couldn't get new from Suzuki was the left side radiator shroud there, so I had to get a used one and kind of restore it. But that's pretty much it. Full Yoshi exhaust, cherry bomb, stock air filter, you know, intake and all that. And yeah, I mean, factory 43 nerves and whatnot. Real quick before I move on to the other ones, as you guys can kind of see, there's kind of a reoccurring theme between all the quads, and this is something I kind of like to do, just to have a similar feel when going from machine to machine. All my quads will have flex bars. They're pretty much all 15 degree. Hermosi throttle, ODI road grips, anti-vibe stem, power mat handguards, precision stabilizer, GBC XC Master tires, TM Design Works skid plate. That's pretty much on all of these. TM doesn't make a skid plate for this one. I have a BCC, but again, this one's flex bars, ODI Rogue, power mat, Hermosi, and same here on the old 250. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the LTR. I've done a walk around video, I don't know, probably like what, a month ago, 2 months ago. It kind of covers everything a little more in depth. And I kind of mentioned in that video I wanted to go yellow plastics, so here you guys go. It's kind of where we're at with this dude. And they all have Quad-Tech seat covers as well. Just something, they're very comfortable, they're easy to put on, they're high quality, and they're very, very grippy, especially if you get the super grip sides. So next we'll move on to the LTZ. This has kind of been the focal point of the channel for like the past, I don't know, 3 years or so. I had a Raptor 700 at the time when I first got back into riding, and it was an excellent quad, but the way I was riding it, I was kind of riding it more like a 450 or a 400. And I was cracking the frame, and it's just kind of a heavy and big quad for how we ride at Croom. So I just decided it was time to part ways with it. And when I did, I kind of devoted more, time and funds towards the 250R and the Z. So the Z has taken a lot of different, it's had a few different facelifts over the years. It started out pretty much all stock other than suspension and a full exhaust. Now, we're at full long travel in the front, Fox floats. That's also another thing that's very similar between all the quads. Full long travel front, JD Performance +3 arms, Hauser, I think this is a +1 swing arm. Hauser +1, PEP linkage, custom axis rear shock, cylinder works, 434, big bore, Jet Labs FCR39, hot cams, what else? It's just a stock compression piston. Do have the DRZ kit, so it's got dual rate valve springs and a single layer base gasket to bump the compression a little bit. Got the aftermarket CDI, the Dynatech, if you guys can see it. And that just helps it rev out another 1,000 RPM. Most recently, what I've done to this is an IMS 4-gallon tank, aftermarket light bar, and LED lights, just to kind of make it a little more capable off-road. Trailtech Vapor unit. Quick change Henson cover from Brian May, full HMF exhaust. And again, GBC tires. And then also another thing that's kind of a recent thing that I've done, I'm not racing or anything like that. Pretty much all the terrain we ride down here is loose sand or loamy soil, and I'm done with beadlocks, guys. I'm tired of tightening loose bolts. They're always leaking air. Some of them will hold air, but actually the last few years I've had pretty good luck with them holding air, as long as you grease them real good. But they're just they're heavy. They're kind of a little more maintenance intensive, and they're harder to clean, man. Like if you're not running mud plugs, even in the sand down here, they just get packed with sand, and they're just a pain in the ass to clean. So I'm just done with beadlocks. These are so much lighter, and these are just Douglas A5s. I've got them on all the quads except for the front on the 250R. I got Douglas rock outs, which just have like a built-in rock guard. But they're just lighter. They're plenty strong. I'm not smacking trees and stuff. I can still run low pressure tires, or low pressure. I usually run 5 in the rear and 6 in the front is usually what I run. Sometimes 5 all the way around. But yeah, I mean, they're just, and especially on the 250R, that's just a stock ported cylinder. And you can really tell when you go from beadlocks to just regular non-beadlock wheels, the amount of weight, that centrifugal weight, that rotational mass that you lose, you can tell, like it feels like you've actually gained a couple horsepower or a couple, foot-pounds of torque off the bottom, at least with the two-stroke for sure. But back to the Z, it's got a couple rare parts, the Quad-Tech carbon fiber radiator shrouds. Everyone asks me where you can get these. Well, nowhere, at least anymore. Can't get them anywhere. Hauser swing arm, you gotta buy it used. Everyone asks me about the LTR swing arm swap, because I used to have an LTR swing arm on here. Here's the thing with those. If you're starting from scratch, Excellent. It's really the most cost-effective way to get a nice aftermarket roundhouse style swing arm. But the shock, so you use I really should do a video dedicated to this, but just to keep it quick, you use everything from the LTR, from the pivot bolt back, you use all LTRs. Everything is LTR on the swing arm, everything. The shock, not the shock, but the axle, carrier, brakes, sprocket, everything is LTR except the rear shock. You're using an LTZ rear shock. There's two things that I have a problem with it. One, I think there's only one shock guy that has it figured out how to tune the LTZ shock for the LTR linkage and swing arm. And two, the chain alignment isn't 100%. If you're a cross country guy and you're okay with running no chain guide, I think you'll be fine with the LTR setup. But this popped up locally to me, like actually in half an hour south of me, this Hauser swing arm. It was actually on a quad, a Z400 that had all Hauser stuff. And I got it off of him, and I'm like, you know what? When is that gonna pop up again? So that's why I switched from an LTR setup to that Hauser, which is a Z400. It's meant for a Z400. So that is what I did there. That's really the only reason I went back to a Z400 style swing arm instead of the LTR. Not because it's really better, it's just, when is that gonna pop up again? So bought that, got it redone, redid all the bearings in it, powder coated it, and sold the LTR swing arm setup. So that's the Z. That is the Z400. Just this one's kind of like the old reliable, old faithful. I've gone back and forth on selling it a few times just because I've probably only ridden it maybe like 3 times this year. But every time I ride it, I'm like, dang, this thing is just, not only does it feel good, it's always there. It starts up easily. It's always ready to go. It's reliable. And man, it doesn't want to ever stall out on you. It's just got that heavier flywheel, and it just kind of chugs everywhere. And anyone can really get on it and ride it. That's the other nice thing. So if I have any friends or the wife that wants to ride, they can just hop on it and go. There's no, hey, you gotta be really careful with this or careful with that, or make sure you don't do that. No, it's just get on it, turn the key, and go. That's kind of why I just want to keep it, even if I don't ride it. So really excellent quad. The gem of the garage, well, other than the vet, but the grandfather of the garage for sure, 1988, the Honda 250R. Bought this off a friend in 2019. Stock frame cracked everywhere. Engine needed to be redone. It was a full redo, and I have a kind of a time lapse rebuild of that I did. I did that. I actually bought it Christmas Eve, I believe, of 2019, and I rebuilt it February of 2020. Complete frame redo on the stock frame, gusseted frame, and everything. This aftermarket frame popped up about 2.5 hours from me locally last year. Found it on Facebook Marketplace and went up and bought it, and had it. It was Smurf blue. Had it, media blasted and repowder coated. This candy apple red color, which I've always wanted a candy apple red frame with black plastics. So that is what I have done. This thing just has, this is the one that I've kind of poured all my heart and soul into, just because this is the one, where you really won't lose money on it. Whereas these, especially the Z, you're going to lose a lot of money on it. But these, you could probably sell something like this, an aftermarket frame. You could probably, I don't really want to put a dollar amount on it, but easily upwards of $10,000, probably upwards of $12,000 you could sell that for. But roll design plus 3 long travel, Fox floats, precision stabilizer, Lone Star stem, the usual flex bars. I did upgrade to a Magura hydraulic clutch, which so far I really like it. As long as you get it adjusted correctly, it's really nice. That's the slave cylinder there. The engine, completely stock bottom end. I just recently rebuilt this in February or March. I rebuilt this, went through, replaced a few transmission gears, new OEM Honda CR500 main bearings, hot rods crank, new top end, new piston and everything. Had had the cylinder rebored. The crank tins blew apart and locked up and destroyed the piston with it, so it's bored out to the next size. This engine, or this cylinder rather, it's an 88 cylinder. Selvey, Rob Selvey, the late Rob Selvey, rest in peace, ported it. It's meant for pump gas. It's kind of like a mid-range port job. He cut the head so it uses O-rings like a newer two-stroke instead of a head gasket. It has a 2mm spacer plate. I believe it's 2 millimeters anyway, and then a Yamaha YZ250 piston. So it's kind of a custom miniature big bore kind of setup there. Kean 38mm air striker. Custom axis rear shock. Stock intake with a uni filter. Yeah, guys. Hauser, again, another Hauser swing arm. All 450 TRX450 brakes on this guy. It's got modern 450 brakes, including the master cylinder. 2001 CR250 dirt bike electronics, so it's got a lighter flywheel, can't run lights or anything. It's just a very simplified setup, kicks over extremely easy. It's just the kind of the way to go on these. I think these are better than any ignition you could get for these. And just keep it OEM, but do the CR250 dirt bike setup. Trying to think if there's any other little trick parts that I've done with this dude. Stock gas tank. I do have an inline temp gauge just to kind of keep an eye on temperature. Trail Tech gauge there. Yes, it's hot in here. I don't know if you guys can see that temperature or not. FMF pipe, everyone gives me crap for that, and I may go ahead and get a bet. These aren't really considered the best pipes for these, but it's a good all-around pipe, and it's really good for the woods. I have no complaints, but I know there's better, so I might do something eventually with that. We'll see. I've thrown around the idea of just kind of maybe selling both 4-strokes and just keeping the 250, kind of investing a little more in that, maybe going to a 363 big bore or something, and just letting that be the only quad. I just haven't ridden as much this year as I usually do. A lot of people have moved away, and I think maybe the economy has a little bit of it to do with that too. A lot less people are kind of riding, and it's just kind of sad, kind of going back to where it was a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of a general walk around of the 4-wheeled dirt scooters. Z's got YFZ450 brakes, dual caliper brakes. Don't know if I could make a video on that. You guys leave some comments down below if you want me to do like specific videos for each machine covering a certain thing. I know for sure I've done a video doing the 450 brakes on the 250R. I think I touched on this multiple times, how to do the YFZ. They're just bolt on. You don't have to do anything special. Literally just go on eBay, find some carb model YFZ shocks or YFZ calipers and toss them on. But yeah. Standard travel front suspension still, obviously stock on the LTR. But I'm super happy with the stock suspension on the LTR. I always have been. These are a little heavy, but in my opinion, best out of the box quad ever made. Yamaha's, if you're racing and you're willing to put the money into them, they end up being better. They have better potential, the new YFZs. But I don't know, man, something about the old LTR, you really only got to put 40, 50 bucks into it, and you have something that makes quite a bit of power, and for sure the best turning quad of all time. If it wasn't, the YFZ guys wouldn't be putting LTR geometry spindles and everything else on their bikes. So it's just my opinion there. And a lot of people say Yamaha is the only one supporting sport quads still, and that may be true in the sense that they're the only ones selling new sport quads, but let's not kid ourselves, guys. They're not really supporting sport quads. They're taking advantage of an open market. I mean, that's really what's going on. It's the same quad since 2009. They're going on 14 years, 15 years now. Over a decade of the same quad. That's not really supporting. I mean, they haven't, there's really no progression, no innovation. They're literally just selling the same quad and increasing the cost of it. So, I mean, that's normal with inflation and everything. But let's not kid ourselves. They are keeping it alive, but I wouldn't really say they're supporting sport quads. We are supporting sport quads. Us people that are keeping these old dinosaurs alive, we're the ones that are supporting sport quads. So let's open the garage and we'll do a little startup on each machine. We'll start with the LTR, we'll go LTZ, and we'll end with the 250R, since it's gonna smoke us out, kill all the mosquitoes and whatnot. But yeah, guys, let me know down below if you have any questions about any of these, or if you want me to elaborate more on a certain topic on a certain machine. No problem doing that. Don't know when I'll get to it, but got no problem doing that for you. So let's see what we can do. Oh, you know my neighbors love me. The reason I have this up on these little dollies here is because I slide it over into here when I'm storing it. Keeps it out of the way. Alrighty, let's get the old 250R started up. Fortunately, this one doesn't have the little thumb kicker button. This one we gotta manually kick over. Alright guys, that's it. Hope you guys have a good weekend of riding. Get out there, work on something, ride, have some fun, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.